Hi, what's up guys? Welcome to another Projection 3D video tutorial. Today we'll be exploring various water animation techniques, from some very simple ways to some of the more advanced. After watching this tutorial, you'll get answers to all your questions regarding water animation. So if you're ready, let's get started. So we'll start with a simple method. What we have here is a projected scene with animated camera. It's a very simple animation. You see, I added some keys and moved the camera forward. So now we need to create that water movement and add some rippling effect to it. And we also need to correct water reflection because, as you can see, it is distorted when I play it back. Okay, let's begin. So we've added new projection copy. Let's rename it and call it Displacement. Double click it and add a plane primitive to create animated map for our water here. We don't need to project anything on it, we simply need a white plane in space. So what I'll do is I'll open material options and disable accept shadows. Okay, and also increase scale. This way we can see it better. Now I'll mask it like this. We only need the part with the water. Okay, great. So now we'll be using Fractal Noise effect. So head over to Effect, Noise and Grain, and choose Fractal Noise. Now look, the texture already looks a bit like water surface, but the waves are too big for our scene. And most importantly, it's in 3D and moves along with the camera. So physically, everything is correct. We only need to add some movement to the waves. So open Transform tab, uncheck Uniform Scaling, reduce scale width, also height, so that you get something like this. Okay, good. Now our waves got smaller. And maybe just reduce height a little more. Cool. Now to make water move, we need to work with evolution parameter. I'll add a key, go to the 4th second. Let's see where it ends. Alright, so let's go to the 4th second and also add some evolution value here. Let's see. No, that's too slow. Increase value by about 5 or 6. And just click 0 to pre-render. Looks good, right? Although, let's add one more. Now I'll open sub settings and add a key on sub offset. See? This value makes the waves move horizontally. And this one vertically. So let's add some values and pre-render and see what we get. Cool, our animation map is ready. Now go to the main comp. I'll close this. Select Projection Scene 2. Go to Effect, Distort Displacement Map. Now let's try to play it back. Nothing happens. That's because we haven't selected our animated map yet. Click here and select Displacement. And change red and green to luminance, since our displacement map is black and white. Let's have a look again. Okay, we just made the waves move. Yep, looks great already. But we also need to fix the water reflection so that it doesn't get distorted. So to do that, go to Effect menu, Distort and Liquify, set key on Distortion Mesh, go to the end of the comp, and fix the distortion. Hold left mouse button and drag. Also, if you hold Ctrl and drag it like that, you can change the size of the brush. So try repeating what I did carefully and try not to spoil the reflection. Should probably make the brush size smaller. Okay, now here. Great, we're done. Now let's try to correct the distortion of this large reflection as much as we can. Slowly but surely. Okay, let's see. Okay, we should fix this part. Let's have a look again. Also here. Okay, I think that's enough. Enable displacement map and pre-render. Looks very nice. No distortion. Water looks nice and rippling. Very convincing. Alright, now for some final touches. If you look over here, you'll see the black waves are visible at the edges. This is because of displacement map. To fix this, click Ctrl D and duplicate projection scene 2, and then delete displacement map and liquify. And that's it. Pre-render again. Alright, our animation is complete. This is the easiest way, and actually, most scenes can be animated this way. And by the way, we animated water in this scene from our demo video in the same manner. We just added liquefy effect and fixed reflection just like that. Here are animation keys on the first and last frames. And also there's displacement map for ripple animation. And here's a map that uses displacement map. Everything's the same, just like in the scene that we've animated just now. Alright, so now let's take a look at another scene. Okay, so in this one, everything's pretty much the same. Reflection distortion fixed with liquefy. And here's the map. So let's look at a more complex option, like where we can fix reflection distortion with liquefy. We have another tutorial called Advanced Modeling Techniques, where we model this same scene, but we didn't do anything to the water. So now is a good chance to open that scene and animate it. Now it's not all that simple here. First of all, we don't just see the reflection, but we also have leaves at the bottom of the river there. And it's not so easy to fix reflection distortion there. So there are a few things you should know. So the first thing you should do is you should remove reflection distortion in Photoshop. So in Photoshop, we'll open projection image of the environment. It's called BG. And now I'll get rid of that reflection with clone stamp tool. Like this. All of it. Great. Now let's erase the tree reflection. Now there's some reflection on the leaves, so we need to be careful not to spoil the leaves. That's why we take a sample from here. Good. Now save it. I'll call it BG2. Now I'll go back to After Effects. Replace projection image and projection scene 3 using the new image. And now, as you can see, there's no distorted reflection whatsoever. But this isn't the kind of thing we want, so now we need to bring back the reflection, but without distortion. Go back to Photoshop, open that college building, and now let's just erase everything except the reflection. We'll use Eraser tool for that. Double click on the background to make a layer. Take a brush and erase. As you can see, guys, there's a leaf in the tree trunk reflection. So we'll remove the sleeve using the clone stamp tool, like so. Keep going. Let's add a black layer to erase it more accurately. Okay, great. I think we're done here. Let's save it. We'll call it Tree Reflection. I'll save it as PNG. And now I'll go back to the very beginning in the History tab and leave the reflection of this tree and delete the rest. Okay, good. Now save it. Call it Bridge Tree Reflection. Save as PNG. Now heading back to After Effects to import files we've just created. Drag them here. Then drag the tree reflection to Composition window. It's back. Now press P to open position parameters. We should animate it in a way that it moves along with the scene and it doesn't stay in one place. So I'll add a key on the first frame, and then I'll go to the last frame to fix position. Like this. All right. Now let's see. Yes, that looks proper. Now I'll do the same with the second reflection file. Add a key on position and animate. Great, that's just what we needed. So what we need now is we need to make the waves move. So in order to do that, I will select Projection Scene 3, add a scene. Okay, we have a new copy. Double click it. Add plane primitive. Cool. Already it's where we need it. Let's draw a mask. Okay. Now I'll open Material option and disable Accept Shadows. Add some Fractal Noise. Reduce scale to something like 20. Then add key on Evolution option. Go to the end and set 2. Now let's pre-render and see. Well, it looks like that's enough. Let's just increase map contrast. Okay, cool. And now let's open mask parameters. Add a bit of feather. Now go back to the main comp. Select Projection Scene 3 and add Displacement Map. Choose Displacement Map layer. Also change red and green to luminance. Okay, great. Now for the most important thing. Copy Displacement Map and paste it over to reflection files. Pre-render and let's have a look. Pretty cool, isn't it? Looks like our animation is ready. We've fixed distortion, and so now everything looks right. Let's see it in full screen now, shall we? Okay, this one is also ready. Now I'll show you another example and the third method of creating a reflective water surface. Here in this scene, we have a long building that goes deep and we see its reflection in the water. So when we move the camera, the reflection gets distorted so much that it's impossible to fix it with Liquify. See? Can't fix it. So we should use a different approach here. We can probably use the same method we used in the previous scene, although we'll be doing something completely different. So we're gonna have to create water in Blender because it's the most effective method in this particular situation. Of course, you will rarely need it, but I will show it to you anyways. So let's get started. Select all objects in the scene, then click File, Export OBJ, in Blender. Mark Reduce Scale by 100 times to reduce the scale of the scene. Name it, save it. Okay, great. Now export camera. Go to Main Comp, select Camera, then File, Export Camera. And again, check Reduce Scale by 100 times and choose Blender. And save it. Cool. Now let's go back to Blender. We can delete this object. We don't need it here. Okay, so now we can import both our scene and the camera. Find that OBJ file we've created and import it. I typically use middle mouse button a lot in Blender. And if you never used Blender before, you'll find out that in order to move camera horizontally and vertically, you should hold Shift and use the middle mouse button. Okay, so this is our scene. And now let's import the camera. Switch to Scripting menu, then click Open and choose camera that we've just created. Then click Play button. Okay, now let's go back to the Layout menu. Now you can see that we got our camera here. And it's animated. This means that we have it the same way it is in After Effects. It's the scene with the same parameters. Now we should create projection and we need a static camera for that. So let's select our camera and then select duplicate objects. When you move the cursor, you see duplicated camera. You can right click to put it back in its place. Now select all, delete all keys. When you delete keys, make sure the time ruler is in the first frame. Now when I move forward, you can see that one camera is moving and another one remains still. So the static one will be our projection camera. Select it, go to View, Cameras, set Active Object as Camera. Great. Now we'll look at the scene from the right angle, just the way we have it in After Effects. So the next step is to project the image over the model. Select the model, that's our scene, and then go to Modifier Properties. Add modifier and choose UV project. In Object tab, select Static Camera Projector Cam 001. Go to Shading menu. Click here to see the scene from the point of view of the camera. Okay, now we should add image to the projector. To do that, delete this shader first, and then add a new node. Click Add, Texture, Image Texture. Great. Now connect the two. Select Projection Image, click Open, and choose image.jpg. Nothing happened yet, because our exported model doesn't have a UV map. Look, in the UV project modifier panel, the UV map tab is empty. To add a UV map, change object mode to edit mode. As you can see, the whole scene is selected, so now press UV and choose Cube Projection. Great, now our image is projected onto the model. But as you can see, it's distorted and it doesn't look very well. And basically, the reason here is that our UV modifier depends on how much geometry we have. So here we have a few faces, which is not enough, and we need to add new faces to the model. So let's leave camera view. Make sure you're in edit mode. Click Ctrl R, and you'll see the yellow line. Roll the middle mouse button, and you'll see that there are more lines added. So left click, and one more time. Okay, now click Ctrl R again and add new faces horizontally. Let's have a look at it from the camera view. Now you can see that distortion is gone. Also, let's add faces on the back side plane. For this scene, we only need to fix objects that are reflected in the water. So leave camera view, press Ctrl R, roll the middle mouse button to add more lines, and add faces by clicking left mouse button. Great. And now horizontally. Okay, let's go back to camera view. We can leave edit mode now. As you can see, there is no more distortion, but the picture seems to be sort of stretched vertically. And that's because the aspect assumes it's a 1:1 image, which it's not. It's not like a 100:100 or 1000:1000 square. So we need to calculate this ratio, and that's actually very easy. So let's head over to our projection image properties, and here we can see that it's 9020 by 1080. So let's just use calculator and divide these numbers. That's 9020 divided by 1080 equals 1.7 repeated. And this is our aspect ratio. So we're going to type it in here. And now everything looks correct. Now it's time to create water. So to do that, we should separate water surface from the model. Switch to edit mode. Click here to select faces. Then select water surface. Only water. Now right click, choose separate, selection, great. Select the ground layer, click delete and choose faces. We don't need a ground surface here. Okay, leave edit mode, select water surface. Already you can see that it's a separate object. We'll add new material. We'll create real, physically accurate water material. Let's delete this shader real quick and add a new one, the one called Glass BSDF. Put them together. As you can see, there's a reflection, but it's a completely different reflection. This is Blender's base HDRI map. And so we need water to reflect in our scene. To do this, select Viewport Shading Method, Render Preview, and make sure that In the lighting tab, both scene light and scene world are checked. So far, nothing happened because we have default render engine selected. Go to Render Properties tab and select Cycles Rendering Engine. And now, as you can see, our scene is already reflected in the water. Now we need to work with it, so I'll add waves and movement. Let's do that. I'll add a bump map. Connect normal to normal. Add noise texture. Connect like so. And you can see the waves now. We just need to adjust them. First, increase scale, something like this. Obviously, you can play with other parameters to get the best kind of result for yourself. Okay, it's all fine, but the waves seem a little too high, so we need to reduce the strength. Great. Now it looks alright. And overall, I would say it's got satisfying result. Now we just need to animate the waves. So I select this shader and press Ctrl T to bring in mapping and texture coordinate nodes. If that option is not available, go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, search for Node Wrangler, and mark it. Select Shader and click Ctrl T again. And we see the nodes. Now we need to add animation keys, but first let's add timeline in the shading menu. Go to the very bottom of the right corner, and when you see the arrow become a cross, drag it up. And this gives us a new window. Now click here and choose timeline. Great. Now we can add some keys. Make sure that you are in the first frame. In mapping mode, right-click on Z location, and then choose Insert Keyframes. Go to the last frame, increase value to 0.9. Now choose the Insert Keyframes again. Let's see. Change viewport shading method to see the movement. Yep, the waves are moving. Let's change direction. Replace keyframes. Also animate Y location. Now go to the last frame and increase the value to 1.6. Then right click and replace keyframes. Let's play it again. Cool. There's only one thing left to do. We should change keyframes interpolation mode to linear. Also for the keys. Yes, very good. Now it looks the way we want it. And so now let's take a look at the animation from the other camera. Select the animated camera. Go to View, Cameras, set Active Object as Camera. Cool. Now let's play again. Yep, it's ready. Now press F12 to render and let's see the final image. Yes, looks fine. But we should probably make the water appear darker. We can do that through the properties of the glass shader by making the color slightly darker. Let's have a look again. Excellent. Looks like our work here is done. We can finish it all up in After Effects now. So in After Effects, we only need to deal with water. So let's render the surface and then import it to After Effects. Go to Object Properties, then open Visibility tab, select the model, not the water surface, then uncheck Camera here. As you can see, now there's only water left. Go to Output Properties and choose PNG file format. And make sure you have RGBA color selected, because we need a file with alpha channel. Then go to Render Properties, open Film tab, and mark it transparent. Great. Now render it, and let's see. Great. I'm going to save it now. Make a new folder. We'll call it render. Name and accept. In render menu, let's render animation. Wait for a while. Guys, I rendered a few frames and noticed that the waves are moving too fast, so we should change X and Y location to 0.1 and minus 0.1. Right click to replace keyframes. Good. Let's render again. Okay, now let's go back to After Effects. Let's import the PNG sequence we rendered. Select first frame. Make sure that the PNG sequence is checked. Click Import. Okay, drag it to the timeline. Good. Let's see what we get. I'll switch to full screen. Yep, looks great and convincing. We just need to fix this. We need to organize the scene. Move the closest objects to projection scene 1, objects in the middle to projection scene 2, and so on. We didn't do this at the beginning because in order to export an OBJ file, it was necessary to make sure that all parts of the model are in one comp. So let's organize it now. First, add one more projection copy. Select projection scene 1 and add a scene. Double-click projection scene 2. Select bottom planes and backside plane. Move them over to projection scene 3. Okay, now let's continue. And move this one to projection scene 1. Great. Now select the third scene and replace projection image. Choose Temple BG. Select second scene, replace projection image, and choose template middle part image. And it's done. Let's pre-render again. Okay, well done. The scene is complete. Looks very well, I think. This one was also done with the same method. So I try to show you guys all the things and tricks you can apply to water surfaces, so that you could animate them in almost any scene of almost any complexity. Now, I hope you won't have any difficulties with this, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you again.